Look, you wouldn't build a house without a solid blueprint, right? Of course not. The same exact thing goes for Google Cloud. Before you even think about spinning up a single virtual machine, you need a rock-solid framework in place. And that framework, well, that's what we call the resource hierarchy. For the exam, you have to remember this is your number one tool for enforcing policies and managing access, especially as your organization starts to grow. And this slide just lays it out so clearly, right? At the very top, you've got your organization. That's your entire company. Right underneath that, you use folders to group things together logically, maybe by department or by environment, like prod and staging. And then inside those folders are your projects. And that's where the real magic happens, where your VMs and your databases and all your other resources actually live. But here's where this hierarchy gets really powerful: inheritance. Any security policy you apply at a high level, say on a folder, gets automatically enforced on every single project underneath it. This is how you build security guardrails that can scale without you having to do a bunch of manual work. But it's not just about the structure. You're definitely going to be tested on governance tools. Think of labels and tags as your secret weapon for tracking costs. You can literally filter your billing reports by team. Then you've got organization policies, which let you set these hard and fast rules, like completely disabling risky permissions. And just a quick heads up for the exam, billing accounts are linked to projects, but they actually live outside of this hierarchy. All right, so we've got our structure. Now what? How do we actually manage all the stuff inside it in a way that's repeatable and easy to audit? Because let's be honest, clicking around in the console all day, that's just not going to work. Well, the answer is infrastructure as code, or as you'll hear it, IAC. You write these definition files, think Terraform code, that describe exactly what you want your environment to look like, and the tools just make it happen. This is a core fundamental DevOps principle. Now, for the exam, you need to know a few key IAC practices. First up is using remote state. Just imagine two of your engineers trying to change the same firewall rule at the same time. Yikes. Without remote state, they could totally wreck each other's work. By storing the state file in a central spot, like a cloud storage bucket, you prevent all those conflicts. Next on the list is module versioning. Let's say your networking team needs to tweak their firewall rules. With good module versioning, they can go ahead and do that without you having to worry that it's going to break your application, because your app is pinned to a specific, stable version of their networking module. It's safe. And the last key practice here is parameterization. Seriously, instead of hard-coding values like how many instances you need or what region you're in, you use variables. This is what lets you use the same exact IAC blueprint for both your staging and your production environments, just by feeding it different values. It's super powerful. Okay, so our hierarchy is set, our infrastructure is all defined as code. What's next? Well, how do we get our applications deployed onto that infrastructure automatically? And that, my friends, is where CI/CD comes in. So on Google Cloud, a modern pipeline pretty much looks like this, these 3 steps. You use Cloud Build to automatically compile your code and build a container image. That image, or artifact as we call it, gets stored safely in Artifact Registry. And finally, Cloud Deploy takes over and manages the release, promoting that artifact step by step from dev to staging and then finally to production. Okay, listen up, because this one is huge for the exam. You never, and I mean never, tag your container images with the word latest. Why? Simple. Latest can change tomorrow. Instead, you use what's called an immutable tag, like the unique Git commit ID. It's like a fingerprint for your code. It never changes. And that gives you a perfect audit trail, so you'll always know the exact version of the code that's running in production. Okay, now this is really cool. Let's talk about binary authorization. I want you to think of it like a final security checkpoint right before deployment. It can enforce a strict policy that says, do not deploy this image unless it has passed a vulnerability scan and it's been approved by the QA team. It is how you stop unvetted code from ever getting close to production. So we've got this awesome automated pipeline, and it's pushing our code out to multiple environments. That brings us right to our next big topic. How do you manage all of them effectively? So one of the big goals here is something called environment parity. All that really means is your staging environment should look as much like production as possible, so your tests are actually reliable. But as you can see here, you tune the configuration. Staging can scale down to 0 to save you money, while production needs to be on all the time. Deployments to staging might be totally automatic, but you'll probably want manual approval for production. And here's another really powerful trick for managing different environments: feature flags. You can have a brand new feature built right into your application, but have it turned off by default. Then you just use an environment variable to flip it on in staging so you can test it, while it stays safely hidden from all your users in production. And you can do all of this without a brand new deployment. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. Let's boil it all down and recap the absolute key takeaways for Section 1 of the exam. You really have to remember these 4 pillars. Your hierarchy, that's your control center. Infrastructure as code, that's how you get consistency. CI/CD, that gives you speed and safety. And solid environment management is how you can test and release with confidence. You put them all together, and that's the foundation of operating effectively on Google Cloud. And I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you keep studying. Think about a huge, complex company. Which one of these 4 pillars do you think is the absolute hardest to get right when you're working at that scale? Is it getting the governance right from day one? Or is it building a truly reliable and secure CI/CD pipeline? Understanding those challenges, that's the key to thinking like a real DevOps pro.